Cocaine is in the building.
Probably help if I unmuted myself. What is up, everybody? How's it going, Bills Mafia? It's not quite game day eve, but it is a football Saturday nonetheless. I got a great show for you tonight. I pre-recorded Thursday afternoon with New York Jets content creator Matt O'Leary of @JustJetsPod and Talking Jets Show, and I'll play that video for you in a little bit. How about this Saturday's slate of college football, though? Hopefully you all had a great day watching some football. Almost got to see Alabama lose back-to-back games. Penn State won in overtime, last-second field goal to beat USC. Texas beat Oklahoma. You got Ohio State and Oregon battling it out right now. Just a great day to watch some football. So hopefully you guys all enjoyed it and maybe watching some football right now on mute while you're listening to me. Tomorrow we got some fun matchups as well. I'll preview the London morning game next, but first a couple ads that make this show possible. First up, I'd like to thank our show sponsor, Mackenzie Farms and Happy Holiday Tree Farms, for supporting the show. They'd like to share a message with you all for this holiday season. Remember when we took pride in the things we built, the things we grew? When we put aside small differences to support one another, we can do it again, and it's not as hard as you think. This Christmas, say no to fake trees. They're made of lead and plastic in sweatshops overseas. Choose a traditional, sustainable, real tree grown by American family farmers in every state. We're not as divided as they say. Let's support each other again. The only way to ensure real Christmas is with a real Christmas tree grown here in America. So this Christmas, don't fake it. Go real. That way you will definitely have a really great Christmas holiday. Sponsored by the growers of real Christmas trees at Happy Holiday and Mackenzie Tree Farms. Our newest network sponsor is Dubby Energy. Dubby is an amazing energy drink that is made with clean ingredients to give you the energy boost you need with no crash. They also offer an electrolyte drink to keep you hydrated. Hit the link in the bio or go to dubby.gg and use promo code DUE, D-U-E, and get 10% off your first purchase. All right. Feel free to comment. I'll try to get to them as we go along. First up, we'll preview the second London game of the season. It's the Jacksonville Jaguars against the Chicago Bears. It's the first of back-to-back games for the Jaguars. They're doing that again this year where they'll just stay in London. A little different than previous years. So a storyline that I'm interested in monitoring is Chicago got to fly out early to London. They flew out earlier this week, I think like Tuesday. But the Jacksonville Jaguars waited to leave until Friday after Hurricane Milton cleared. So they got the late arrival and don't get the rest advantage in the first game. So I'm interested to see if that affects them a little bit. With Trevor Lawrence there especially, they've been really good over in Jacksonville. Over in London. I think they're like 4-1 or 4-2 with Trevor Lawrence there. So I'm wondering if that jet lag this time is going to hurt them, having arrived Friday now. So we'll see about that. Some stats for the nerds. The Jaguars defense has given up the second most passing yards and passing touchdowns. They've given up the most receiving yards allowed and the most outside wide receiver points per game. They've given up the second most running back receiving yards and the 8th most fantasy points to running backs. The Chicago D is a top 5 pass defense. They're top 5 in yards, touchdowns, and interceptions forced. They average over 2 turnovers forced a game. For the Jacksonville offense, they're second in yards per carry. Bigsby's really been coming on the last 2 games. ETN's a little banged up, so I think this could be a chance for Bigsby to have a good game. For the Chicago offense, is Caleb heating up? In 2 of the last 3 games, he's gone over 296 yards. We got Jesse here with the Jags +1 lock and a Bigsby anytime touchdown. I'll get to that Bigsby anytime touchdown, but I don't know about this with the Jags +1 lock. I'm really interested in this one just for the fact of the Chicago pass D is no joke. I think they don't get enough credit. I worry about the jet lag for the Jags and getting over there late. They won a game, but it was against Indy, like where they almost blew the game. So I don't really have a lot of trust in this Jags team, and so I don't know. I think I might have to go Chicago here. Don S saying the metrics really point to Chicago running away with this, but the travel makes it a toss up. Yeah, but I think that's where Chicago might have the advantage. They got over there early. They get to get the jet lag out of the way, where the Jaguars get there late. So I don't know. I feel like it goes Chicago's way with that. Kevin Bears -1. Yeah, Kevin, I think I'm with you on this, man. I started out wanting to lean Jags, but the more I looked into it, I'm having to side with Chicago. Chicago hasn't played anyone. Well, Jacksonville hasn't beat anyone besides Indianapolis, who's awful. Kevin doesn't know what he's talking about. For people who don't know, Kevin and Neffy host a show together called No One to Blame that goes over betting and handicapping and player props. Tomorrow morning, so Sunday mornings, 10 a.m. Eastern, we'll be on live. I'll be joining them. We'll be breaking down every matchup for the week. Yes, no one to blame. Blame Jesse. I like it. All right. Let's see. Back to player props. All right. So I like Trevor Lawrence under 230 passing yards. He's gone under 230 in 4 of the last 5 games. I think this is going to continue. Where'd you put up your? Let's see. You put the unders for London. There you go. London unders. Yeah, I'm kind of leaning towards that too. I can see this being a little bit more of a run game and going under. So I got T-Law under 230 passing yards. I got Bigsby going over 40.5. He's done that in both the last 2 games. He's broken off some big runs. I think if he gets more of the share with ETN banged up, then I think that leans even better towards that. I think that's a pretty easy cover for him. So Bigsby over 40.5. I like Brian Thomas Jr. 40 plus 40. He's gone over 45, I think, in 4 or 5 games. So I'll take him at 40 plus. Caleb Williams over 236 yards. It's a little worrisome for me on that line, but he's been heating up a little bit, and I think you can get after this Jags defense a little. I'm expecting maybe a broken play or two from DJ Moore, maybe a Dunze, and letting him get over that total. Out of all the props I have, this is probably the one I'm least confident in, but he's been heating up a little bit, and you can throw on this Jags defense. So I like Caleb Williams over 236.5. Yeah, I agree with you, Don. He's hit a long one every week, and he's gone. I think the line's usually around 54 with him, and he's gone over that in 4 or 5. So I went a little conservative and did 40 plus. But yeah, if his long reception's under, I think 21 or 22, I like that play as well. It's a good call. And then I like 2 DeAndre Swift plays. I like him over 18.5 receiving yards. And I like him over 50.5 rushing yards. He's kind of come on the last couple games, and I think that has a chance to continue. Yep. Brian Thomas Jr. averaging 18 yards per catch. Yeah, and so I like Swift a lot in this game. I like Swift and Bigsby both, and then I like them both for anytime touchdowns. So Swift is plus 120, and last I checked, Bigsby's plus 175. If you parlay that all together, it's plus 6,892. So if you really trust me that much, then there you go. You could start off tomorrow morning with a nice bang. I'll do another plug for us there, Jesse. So if you want to get a full preview of the Sunday slate, check out our Sunday morning edition of No One to Blame. Kevin, Jesse, and I break down each game. We will give you picks, player props, best bet parlays, and also daily fantasy. We'll do a lineup each on FanDuel. You can catch the show live 10 a.m. tomorrow, so 10 a.m. Eastern time on Sundays. We'll also give you breaking injury updates, and then we'll do live betting on the London game and some live commentary as well, depending on how our bets are going. Yes, Kevin abandoned us for tomorrow, so it'll just be me and Jesse. Let's see. What are you yelling at me about? I did do a touchdown bet. I did Bigsby and Swift. I went some easy ones. So Don and his brother Aaron like to give me a lot of crap because I like anytime touchdowns, and I play a lot of anytime touchdowns. So they claim that I am the anytime touchdown king because no matter who scores, I seem to have a ticket cashed for them. So. All right, we'll do a little reverse power rankings. Feel free to chime in. Let me know how terrible they are. A lot of movement here. Yeah, there you go. The Parlay Prince. That's another one of my nicknames. I tried to go lighter this week, but we'll see. I got to stick to the bit, I guess, now that it's gotten a little legs. All right, so reverse power rankings. I got Carolina at 32. I don't know. If they played New England right now, would they beat them? Maybe. Probably. New England's defense is nowhere near what people thought. They've been pretty banged up. They've been giving up a lot more passing yards than people thought. They're banged up on the offensive line. So I got New England at 31, but you could put either one of those teams at 32. We'll see how Drake May looks this week. Tough spot, though, man. How do you throw him to the Wolves like that in his first games against Houston's D-line? I don't know. That's pretty rough. So we'll see how he does. So I have New England at 31. I have Jacksonville at 30. Until they can prove that they can actually beat somebody that's a real team. Indianapolis was banged up and they barely pulled that out. So we'll see. If they go and they win, one or two of these in London, then we'll move them up a little bit. But Jacksonville at 30. I have the Giants at 29. I don't know what to make of them. We kind of called that win in Seattle that there's a chance they could pull that off. It's just one of those weird games that only the Giants would win. But I don't think they can keep it going. They beat Cincy this week and we'll move them up. But I don't have too much faith in them. Their D-line's been getting after it a little bit, so that's nice to see. And so we'll see with the Giants. But 29 right now. I have Miami at 28. Tua's got to come back and they got to play well or the season's over. If they got the bye right now, so get a little healthier and we'll see how it's going. But yeah, exactly. Miami at 28. We'll see with them. 27. I have Cleveland. I want to put Cleveland lower, but it's hard because the roster's so good. But I mean, they have arguably the worst QB play right now and one of the worst offenses in football. Nick Chubb's supposed to come back next week, so maybe that'll get things going because they have not been able to run the ball too well. But again, it's hard to put too much confidence in Chubb coming off the major injuries. So I have Cleveland at 27. Kevin, I tried to give you a little friendly boost here. I got the Raiders at 26. I don't know why. I have zero faith in AOC as a quarterback. I wish they'd go back to Minshew Mania. A nice strategy for the Raiders would be start AOC and then maybe a series or two, bring in Minshew, and he seems to play way better coming off the bench. So maybe that's some mental strategy they could do. Yeah, I don't think so. Jesse. I just don't trust AOC at all. So that's bad. That's better than I thought. Yeah. Hey, it's somewhere. It's 26. Maybe you want him to do worse, so then the draft pick's better. I don't know. Do you think Devonte Adams is on the roster in another week? We'll see. Yes, yes, I agree with you. So I have Las Vegas at 26. 25, I have Tennessee. Coming off the bye, their defense has been playing a lot better than people realize. It's a shame that their offense has been so bad. We'll see with Will Levis having sat and then now the bye week. Hopefully he comes back healthy. Hopefully they have a little better game plan going. But I talked about this before the season and a little bit the last couple of weeks. I just don't think that's a good fit. Will Levis with Callahan and the style of offense he wants to run. So unless he makes some adjustments for Will Levis's style, I'm just not sure how it's going to work. They need to work Ridley the ball more, and they talked about that a little bit. So we'll see. They have plenty of weapons. Pollard's been playing well, and that defense has been playing well. So, yes, we do. We need the Will Levis weekly meme. Maybe you can work on that. So I have Tennessee at 25. We'll see. I got Indianapolis at 24. I don't know why. I don't think they're that good of a team. But yeah, they're kind of hanging around. We'll see. Anthony Richardson. I'm not sure he's gonna play. I don't know if you guys have a better lean on it. He had a weird practice week where it was limited participant, and then like full, and then limited again. So I don't know. I actually like that offense better with Flacco. I talked about the ups and downs with Anthony Richardson. He's so boomer bust, and I don't think you can run a sustainable offense with that. Sure, like 1 week he'll hit a couple throws, but I think Flacco's better for that offense. Yeah, they're super banged up as well. Looks like Pittman's gonna go and Downs is gonna go, but man, for Downs, like a shifty guy having a turf toe, that's not good. So, and then Pittman's got the back injury, so they're real banged up, but they're getting Kenny Moore back. I think they're right where they belong. So 24 for Indy. 23, I have the Rams. I don't know what to do with the Rams. Like, I think they're a good team, but then they go and get ran over. So I don't know. They're really banged up as well. Like, no Cup, no Nakua still. We'll see. The O line's been banged up. The defense has been banged up. They benched Trey White, and that seemed to help their defense a little bit. He was that bad. Hate to see it, but yeah. So I have the Rams at 23. I like Stafford. I like McVay. I think they'll figure it out. They'll end up winning enough games. I don't know if they'll be a playoff team though, so that's why they're at 23. 22, I have Arizona. Arizona's like Jekyll and Hyde this year. 1 week you think they're going to be a good team, the next week they get blown out. So we'll see. Arizona 22. Seattle 21. I want to put Seattle a lot lower. I don't like Geno. I don't like that offense. I don't like that defense right now. But they have the talent. They have the weapons. And so I have them at 21 because I think they can beat a lot of the teams below them. I have Atlanta at 20. They're another one of those teams. Like, are they just starting to figure out their identity? Is Cousins starting to play more confident, or is it just a product of like who they've been playing? They've kind of snuck out a couple victories here now, so we'll see what the real Atlanta is. But they definitely have plenty of weapons to score with anyone, and then their defense has some star power and can make some plays. So I like Atlanta. I had them like I want to say around 10 or 12 before the season. So they're at 20 right now, and maybe they'll climb up a little higher. I had the Chargers at 19. Like, I have no idea what to do with the Chargers. Like, I don't think they belong at 19, but they have a pretty high floor with the way their defense is playing. I didn't think their defense would play this well. So I think the defense, the run game, and then, just ask Herbert to do a little bit, and it's a pretty solid team. That's how Harbaugh wants to win. So I have them at 19. Pretty big game for them this week, so we'll see. So yeah, at 19. I don't think the Chargers know what to do with the Chargers. Yeah, I completely agree, man. I completely agree. I do love the fact, though, that, like, you bring in Harbaugh, and then he brings in Greg Roman, and then it's like, but you have Justin Herbert, man. Like, what are we doing? But it's working right now because they don't really have the weapons to throw to. So, yeah, Gus Edwards went to IR, so looks like it's going to be the J.K. Dobbins show, but can he stay healthy? Like, I don't know. Like, we'll see. He'll be the bell cow, and then what they have, Kamani Vidal is the rookie as the backup. Some people really liked him coming out, so maybe he'll get some looks. But yeah, Chargers at 19. I have the Jets at 18. Another one, like, they have the talent to be higher, but they lose Monday night, and like, is it done? Is it over? Is the season done already? Like, I don't know. They have a tough little stretch coming up, so we'll see. It's a big game for them, Monday Night Football. But they're talented, man. So we'll have the Jets at 18, but it's kind of like, can they get out of their own way? Um, is Rodgers, does he have his hands in too much stuff? Uh, does Todd Downing, does that change anything? We'll see. We're obviously going to talk about that a lot more later tonight. So, but I have the Jets at 18. I have Denver at 17. Um, I again, like, it's another one of those teams, like a lot like the Chargers. Like, what do you do with Denver? Um, what is Bo Nix? I don't even know right now. Like, their defense is playing great. It's keeping them in games. They haven't played a lot of great teams either, though. So we'll see. I'm not sure if they can keep up with a team that like a high-powered offense. I'm not sure yet. So we'll see. It's nice to see Javonte Williams get going a little bit. And so I have Denver at 17. I have New Orleans at 16. I didn't really know where to put them with the Carr injury. Like, what is Spencer Rattler? We'll see how they respond. I think the defense, has a chance to keep them in some games, but man, they're really banged up too. They can't afford, Kamara or someone getting hurt, or on the defensive side. But we'll see how Rattler looks. I think he's got a chance to put up some numbers on Tampa Bay. Their pass defense hasn't been great. There's a chance Tampa Bay gets some guys back in the secondary. So we'll see. And then Todd Bowles going against a rookie, but Bo Nix lit him up earlier in the year. So I don't know. We'll see about that. So I have New Orleans at 16, Cincy 15. What do you do with Cincinnati? Like, where would you have Cincinnati? Yeah, these 16 to 22 ranks are all interchangeable. Lots of inconsistency in teams trying to find their identities. Yeah, totally agree. I totally agree with you. There's a lot going on. I think we're in that kind of chunk of the season where teams are starting to figure themselves out, but then you have all the injuries hitting, and it's like, who can make it through the injury shakeup right now? I don't know, but yeah, there's a whole chunk of teams right here that we'll see how it goes. But Cincinnati, man, don't lay an egg, man. Do not let the Giants beat you. That would just basically put them in a hole I'm not sure they can dig out of. But I trust Cincinnati. I like them, so I have them at 15. I got Tampa Bay at 14. We'll see. I mean, you lose to New Orleans with Spencer Rattler, and I don't know. I don't know what to make of you. So I'm not really sure. We'll see about them. Like, Baker's been playing pretty well, but if you ask Baker to do too much, that's not good. Rashad White being out, like, is that better? Like, he's not great. Do you want to see more carries go to Bucky Irving? When they've given him some, I haven't really seen him do too much. I really liked him coming out. So we'll see what he can do with the opportunity. They obviously have the weapons, but that pass defense has been bad. But Winfield Jr.'s coming back, and so we'll see if that gives him a boost. In Bucky, we trust. Yeah, that burned me earlier this year, so we'll see. I got him stashed in a couple leagues. I could definitely use him. Next up, I got Pittsburgh. I don't know what to do with Pittsburgh either. Like, they're right there. They're something. They're a solid team. But, man, you got to get something out of the quarterback play. It feels like Justin Fields just stopped running, and the offense just is not as efficient now. Najee, like what is Najee Harris? Like, every time you think he's going to do something, he has a bad game. He's not very consistent. Warren's coming back. Like, does that help at all? I don't know. The defense is pretty good, but they're banged up now. So Highsmith and their other edge, Urbig, he's hurt too. So We'll see. I mean, it's tough when you only have JJ Watt on one or TJ Watt on one side. Um, that defense goes goes down a little bit when you can focus everything on him. So we'll see what Pittsburgh is, but right now I'm sitting there at 12. I have Dallas at 11. Yes, Najee looks so slow. Yeah, he has no burst to get through. Yeah, I mean, and then you want him to break arm tackles and run with power, and he just doesn't. It's just it's weird, man. I don't know. He like wants to be like this dancing running back, and he needs to just be straight ahead power running back. So I don't know. I have Dallas at 11. I want to put them lower. I really do, but they went in and beat Pittsburgh, a game they had to win. So we'll see. I think they're gonna struggle against Detroit. I think the trenches in that game is lean heavily to Detroit. So we'll see if Dallas plays well in that game, then maybe they're in the right spot at 11. But I worry about Dallas. They're pretty thin. The O line's not been great. They got to run the ball, man. They have not run the ball well. Jerry Jones is saying they're saving Zeke for later, but what are you saving? Like, what is left with Zeke? Rico's been okay, but nothing special. They got to run the ball. You cannot put everything on Dak and CeeDee. They don't have the tertiary weapons there. So Dallas 11. I have Buffalo at 10. Man, they just got to get healthy. Bills got to get healthy, get Vaughn back, and Josh has got to stop trying to throw the ball down the field. I think they'll be fine. So we'll see. Big game, obviously, Monday night. We'll talk about that more later, but I have Buffalo at 10. I have Green Bay at 9. Every time I think Green Bay is like turning a corner and is like going to be like this juggernaut, they take a step back. Jordan Love's gotta clean up some things. He's turning the ball over a little too much right now. Josh Jacobs, though, is running the ball really well. No one's really talking about him too much, but he's running the ball really well. I think he'll have another big game this week. And that defense has got to get healthy. Jair Alexander, I think, is coming back this week, so that should help. But I have Green Bay at 9. I got Houston at 8. Houston's another one. Like Nico Collins being out is a pretty big loss. No one really seems to step up whenever he gets hurt. They have Diggs now to do that, so yeah, I think that'll help. Diggs provides a nice security blanket there. But someone else has got to step up besides him. Mixon coming back for Houston is big, and I think that's really going to help them. He brings an attitude for that team that they really need. Is Jacobs ever going to catch touchdown pass? At this point, like I almost don't want him to. I just want him to like keep that shtick going and kind of just like blow that record out of the water. It is funny though. Like he is a pass catching back. Like he's pretty good at catching the ball, and the fact he's never caught one is pretty funny. So I have Houston at 8, Philly at 7. I'm putting a lot of trust in AJ Brown and Devonta Smith coming back, and that's going to fix a lot of their issues. The defense has still got to play better, but Hurts with AJ Brown on the field tends to play much better, and that offense seems to move a lot better when he's on the field. So I have Philly at 7. I have Washington at 6. They have a chance to make a statement here. They beat Baltimore this week, and they're going to be right up there in the probably top 2 teams. But this is the toughest team they've played, and they match up well, I feel like, against Washington. Their run defense, their D-line, and then I think Baltimore's offense is going to be tough for them to stop. It's a matchup of the first and second scoring offenses, should be good. Washington at 6. Where would you put them, man? Where do you put Washington? They got to be up there somewhere. I got Minnesota at 5. I guess you could argue, the next 2 or 3 spots, but yes, Brian Robinson Jr. is ruled out. So we'll see who can step up and run the ball. I'm not sure that was going to make a big difference in this game. I think if Washington's going to win, I don't think it's going to be necessarily the ground game. They're going to have to get some creative. You think Washington should be at 10? Well, I think you're wrong. Um, you can do power rankings on your show, nephew. Okay. No, they could be. I don't know. That's why I said this is kind of a benchmark game. They've handled their business with everyone else. You could argue the competition, but we'll see. Baltimore's definitely a step up in competition, especially for that defense trying to slow down on Baltimore. So I have Washington at 6, Minnesota at 5. Um, Darnold's kind of coming down to earth a little bit. That kind of worries me. I worry about him because once he gets rattled and speeds up, he starts really making mistakes. And yeah, the chat has me seeing ghosts like Darnold. And so I'm worried about Darnold. But but man, Flores has really been dialing it up this year, and Kevin O'Connell, I really like him. Minnesota at 5, they keep on winning. So Detroit at 4. They gotta go into Dallas and beat them. They gotta start putting together some wins. They're getting back to running the ball some. I think that's Ben Johnson got maybe a little too cute. He needs to get Laporta the ball and get back to just ground and pound, and then play action off of that and let Goff go to work. So got Detroit at 4. I don't know what to do with San Francisco. I have San Francisco at 3. Um, I know they were dealing with a lot of injuries and banged up, but they got a couple of bad losses in there. So we'll see. I think they're very talented. I do worry about their secondary a little bit. Hufanga's hurt, and the corner play hasn't been stellar. So I do worry about San Francisco a little bit, but I have them at 3. I got Baltimore at 2. Um, Again, statement game. Washington, who had Baltimore Washington circled as the marquee game, arguably so far in the season. The 1 and 2 scoring offenses. So Baltimore at 2, they have a chance to make a big statement. See how their defense does against that Washington offense that's been firing on all cylinders. And then at 1, no surprise, Kansas City. You could argue they're not playing great. Mahomes definitely is not playing very well this year, but they win, man, and that's all that matters. At some point they're gonna turn it on and be ready to go, but it's hard to argue, with them not being number 1. All right, so now I'll play the recording I did with our guest Matt O'Leary of Just Jets Pod. Keep in mind, we recorded this on Thursday evening before some of the injury updates came out. After the video, I will provide an update of some of the injuries, some of the injury news. But yeah, enjoy the video. You can still comment. I'll put the comments up still, and I'll respond back in chat. So keep the comments going, and let me get that fired up. All right, and now I'm joined by Matt O'Leary from the New York Jets. Matt, you want to tell people where they can find you and what you've been up to lately?
Yeah, absolutely. You can follow me on social media and on YouTube at Matt O'Leary NY. Cover all things New York Jets, doing daily videos and active on social media. I like to keep it light and fun, but talking all things Jets.
And then who do you normally run with in your crew? I saw you usually got different guys that do pod with you.
Yeah, so on Tuesday nights, I do a stream on the Talking Jets YouTube channel. It's myself, Green Bean, and Ryan from Jets Talk 24/7. We usually link up. Earlier today, I did a stream on Talking Jets with Jets Chaos. So that's our channel where we kind of do more collaborative stuff. We've done that for about 5 years or so, but love working with those guys. It's always a blast.
Awesome. Yeah, the one today was great. Definitely check it out if you're a Bills fan. We're recording this on Thursday, just so people know, Thursday afternoon. So some of the stuff we talk about, if it changes with injuries and things like that, just be aware we're recording this Thursday afternoon. So we'll try to harp on that a little bit too later when we get into some of the details. All right, well, I guess we can roll right into it. It's not like there's been any storylines we got to talk about or anything interesting happening so far this week. I will start with on your side of the house. Obviously, the Robert Saleh fallout and the news. why don't you run us through like your thoughts when you saw that and kind of the last 48 hours or so?
Yeah, so I was very surprised when I saw that come through on Tuesday. Wasn't expecting it. This is something that ownership has frankly never done. Woody Johnson's owned the team for 25 years, and they've never made an in-season firing. You have to go back to the 70s for the last time the Jets fired a coach in season. So very unprecedented. But I think what they were trying to do is give this team a spark. It was very clear that they were unprepared, unmotivated, and a very undisciplined team so far this year. I know 5 games seems early, but it's really the 3-year plus sample size that we've had with Robert Saleh as head coach. And I get it. His defense has been really good. I have no real gripe with the defense this year. But unfortunately for me, what it comes down to is just far too often the penalties become way too much of an issue. And they feel like they can never get up for these games. And whenever they have time off after a bye or Thursday Night Football, I believe they're 1-4 in his 3+ years with extended rest, which is just it's not acceptable. And I know we'll get into Hackett later on, and some Jet fans were saying, well, what are you really fixing if you're just firing the head coach and Hackett's still here? And I get it, but ultimately I don't think Saleh was doing a very good job. And if they were going to move on from him at the end of the year anyway, why not do it now and try to spark your season and get it back on track?
Yeah, I thought you guys brought up a good point earlier in your talk today is like, what do you have to lose, right? Like if this is an all-in year, right? And what do you have to lose by trying something, lighting a spark a little bit? Like what's the negative, right? Like could things go worse? Sure, but how does that hurt you guys from where you were already at, like so I think that's a really good point as far as like if you're gonna make a move, make it now where the season's still right there. I mean, you guys win Monday night, you're tied first place, 500. With arguably a pretty soft schedule the rest of the way out. So, yeah, I think from that perspective, it definitely makes sense. Is if you really are all in, like now's the time to do it, right?
Yeah, I agree with that. Like to me, if they waited till like if they lost this game against Buffalo and then they have Pittsburgh the week after, and then if you're 2-5 and making it, well, like season feels like it's pretty much over at that point at 2-5. You got to go like 8-2 the rest of the way to probably be a playoff team. And I just don't think that's fair where, if they make it now, if Ulbricht's able to get them to go 8-4, or who knows with the AFC, maybe they only need 9 wins to get in. And you go like 7-5 or whatever, and that's enough for them to get in. So yeah, really no downside to me on this one. I don't think any Jet fan really looked at Robert Saleh and said like this is definitely a guy who can out coach an Andy Reid or anyone like that in the playoffs. So we have no idea what Ulbricht's going to bring, and I think that unknown is actually more of a positive because we've seen what Robert Saleh is, and he's a great defensive mind, great defensive coach. The players love him, but at the end of the day, there were just too many flaws for him as a head coach.
Yeah, I think that's a great segue. Like, we could talk about Saleh, all the time, but let's focus on where the team's going. So with Ulbricht coming in, he's been the DC, he's been calling the plays, but now taking over head coach, like, is he still going to call the plays? Like who's going to handle game, during, in the game, ops and decisions and management. And now he's going to be juggling that on his plate. Like, I think I remember him being an interim head coach at some point, right? Didn't Saleh miss a game or something? Was that during COVID or something? And didn't he
Yeah,
coach a game or something? I think
they did have. So Saleh missed a game in 2021, and their tight end coach Ron Middleton actually coached that
okay.
game. But
Okay.
this past year, he was the head coach down at the Senior Bowl.
Okay.
So that's some of his experience there. And you brought up the defense and who's going to be calling the plays. As of now, we'll see if that changes, but he's going to continue to call the plays defensively. And they're making some changes with the defensive coordinator or the interim defensive coordinator now being Tony Oden, who is the cornerback coach.
Okay. Yeah, that'll be interesting to see how he juggles that because I know some, first time head coaches struggle with dealing with the game day ops part of it and still having to call plays. So yeah, it's definitely something to keep an eye on for sure. I also saw, the switch to Todd Downing now as well. I'm a little familiar with him from his Tennessee days. I know It ended very bad in 2022. I think he was 30th overall in offense and 28th in points. Do you have any insight in like anything he could change or what you guys are looking for to see out of that on the offensive side of the ball?
Yeah, like I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you and pretend like this is some great massive upgrade here, but I think it just got to a point where Nathaniel Hackett was so bad that even if you go
Mm,
to someone like a Todd Downing, it's even if it's a marginal improvement, you'll take it. What I think he's focused on is the run game. They had a really good run game there, and naturally, Derrick Henry was there and makes life a little bit easier. But if you look in 2021, Henry missed 9 games that year, and they were still a top 5 rushing offense, even in the times where they missed him. So the Jets' run offense has been really poor this year, which is surprising
mm.
to me. I was expecting a really nice year for Brees Hall, and Braylon Allen, the rookie, I think has shown flashes and looked good early on, but specifically the last 2 weeks, they could not get anything going on the ground at all. So I'm wondering if with his past history in Tennessee, if he's going to be able to get this rushing attack in gear, just because I don't think as much as we're optimistic about Aaron Rodgers bouncing back after a poor performance against Minnesota, I don't think it's a wise choice to have him be dropping back 50 times a game. I think in a perfect world, he's throwing the ball 30 to 35 times and they lean on that rushing attack. But when they can't get it going, then you're forced to drop back and have him throw, 40, 50, whatever times a game. And I don't think that's really a strong recipe for success. So I think we're hoping to see the rushing attack really start to get it in gear this week.
Do you anticipate any changes with the offensive line coach? I know a lot of fans have not been too happy with him, but do you think there'll be any shakeup there, or do you think maybe just schematically, some changes might help, or even just play call, selection as far as running to certain strengths or in certain situations might help the run game?
Yeah, I would love for them to make a change at the offensive line coach. Keith Carter is their O-line coach. I don't think he's done a really great job. Seemed to rub people the wrong way in Tennessee, and that has kind of carried its way over here to the New York Jets. Fans wanted him gone after last year, but I think what I would like to see them do is run a little bit more of a power scheme than a zone scheme. I just think with what they did in the draft, they drafted 2 big running backs. Brees Hall hasn't been great in zone this year. I think maybe trying him and seeing if it works better in power might be wise, especially with what they did on the offensive line too. Like you had on top of that, you bring in Morgan Moses and Tyron Smith and John Simpson to play left guard. Those guys, they're not really outside, zone rushing attack offensive linemen. So I don't know why they've continued to lean into that. Though it's been a bit confusing because during training camp in the preseason, they showed signs of moving away from it, and then that just seemed to stop in the regular season. So I'm wondering if that's one of the changes that Jeff Ulbrich, Robert Saleh, and Todd Downing have discussed so far.
Yeah, I think if you're looking for a team to try to get your run game going, the Bills right now might not be the worst opponent to try to test that out on. It's been a little suspect for the Bills. Um, what about on the defensive side? Do you think anything changes with Ulbrich? I know he's already been the caller, but like maybe aggressiveness, maybe even just overall for the team situationally. Do you sense any type of change there as well, philosophically?
Not on the defensive side of the ball. I think that's been, fine this year. Now, they have some issues at times with the pass rush because they lost Jermaine Johnson in the week 2. Hassan Reddick never reported. So they're a little bit weaker than anticipated at edge. But Will McDonald has really stepped up in year 2. He has 6 sacks. He's done a really nice job so far this year. But maybe if anything, we saw it against New England in week 3. They blitzed a little bit more than they normally do. This isn't a team that often blitzes. They try to get home with their front 4.
Mhm.
So that might be like the only slight adjustment that we might see. But the defense has been working. Outside of week 1 against the San Francisco 49ers, since then, they've allowed 17 points or less defensively. I know, the Vikings got over 20 points, but there was a pick 6 in that game. So,
Mhm.
that you don't count that on the defense. So, in the modern NFL in today's game, if your defense is allowing 17 points or less, you got to win more often than not. And
For sure.
unfortunately, in those two games, they're 2-2. So not great, but hoping that defensive success continues and they get back to scoring 3 touchdowns a game on offense.
Awesome. Before we get into injuries, do you have anything you wanted to talk about as far as just like overarching things from maybe a Bills perspective you guys are interested in?
Yeah, for me, I know that in the offseason, it felt like the Bills lost a lot of pieces on that defense, and there's a lot of change on the defensive side of the ball. I'm kind of just wondering like how they've adjusted to that. It felt like out of the gate they started hot, 3-0, and then last 2 weeks, really against the Ravens, it wasn't great, but they held the Texans in check point wise. But 3-2 now through their first 5 games. Just I guess overall how they've looked with all these changes.
Yeah, sure. So I think a lot of it was kind of out with the old, in with the new. They wanted to give some younger guys a chance and kind of get faster and younger. Cheaper too is always a plus. So I think they had a good game plan. And then in training camp they lose Matt Milano. Then earlier in the season they lose Terrell Bernard, so they lose their middle linebacker and Will outside linebacker, who are both playing at all pro level when they're healthy. They lost Taron Johnson to a broken arm early in the season as well, forearm. So that's their all pro slot corner. Their safeties, they tried something new with Taylor Rapp as a starter back there, and then Damar Hamlin as the other starter. They originally brought in Mike Edwards from the Chiefs and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers before that, and a lot of people thought he was going to be the starter opposite Taylor Rapp. Then they drafted Cole Bishop out of Utah, and a lot of people thought he was going to compete for a starting spot as well. So the safety position, hasn't been as solid as it's been in years past. They had, Poyer and Hyde, all pros back there manning it. Previously, you could argue the last year or two, they've definitely lost a step and weren't the same in coverage. But as far as leadership and just no coverage busts, things like that, they were still great. So I think a combination of things has led to the Bills being up and down on defense. The defensive line, they just lost Vaughn for the Texans game for a 4-game suspension. Ed Oliver missed that game with a hamstring injury. He was a last second miss. So these aren't just like random guys. These are all starters that are arguably all pro or all Pro Bowl caliber players. So it's been a lot, but I think you could say that they've played very well. I think the Ravens game overall was just a schematic mismatch. The Bills love to play nickel. If they could, it's 100% of the time. They don't really like to come out of it unless it's like goal line or fourth down or third and short. So they're light. And then you talk about missing your middle linebacker, your outside linebacker, your nickel corner, who is a linebacker essentially in run defense. They play Taron Johnson as their third linebacker essentially in run defense. So you're missing, all 3 of those guys. And then both of your safeties are new and still trying to figure it out. So from that perspective, I think it was just a really tough matchup against the Ravens, and they just went heavy and beat them up. Against the Texans, Terrell Bernard came back, so their middle linebacker came back, and I think that really helped in coverage. He had an interception where he really did a good job disguising and kind of baited Stroud into a throw. And so you've missed kind of some of those playmaking abilities from him and Milano on the second level. They had no Von Miller, no Ed Oliver, like I said, against the Texans, and they still played well. They still got good pressure, and holding the Texans essentially to the 20 points. They should have won that game. They didn't lose it because of the defense. So yeah, I think overall they've played very well for the adversity that they've faced. I think when everyone comes back, like there's a good chance that Taron Johnson might come back this game. This will be Bernard's second game back. Taylor Rapp should be back from a concussion. He missed last game, so the rookie Cole Bishop had to play starting safety, and he's the one that Nico Collins toasted for the touchdown on some miscommunication with Rasul Douglas. So I think once they get pieces back and get healthy, I think they're going to be a very good defense. I'd be shocked if they weren't top 10, borderline top 5, when everyone plays. But like you guys know all too well this year, when everyone plays, right? We've had, I think, all of maybe a quarter of play with Terrell Bernard, Taron Johnson, Matt Milano, Von Miller, and Daquan Jones on the field at the same time together in 2 years. So I don't think we know how great this defense can be. The corners have been fantastic. Christian Benford, if you don't know that name, get to know it. He's probably a top 5 corner right now in football. Outside of DJ Reed, they're probably playing the best at corner right now. He's unbelievable. And then Rasul Douglas is very good, especially in zone. He's been great for us. So I think the big thing is is the weaknesses. Teams, especially the last 2 weeks, have exploited our backup weaknesses. So slot, and then over the middle with the linebackers and the safeties. So we'll talk about it in a little bit this game. As they get people back, I think that will shore that stuff up, and we'll see. The run defense, though, is something we could definitely talk about in a little bit, and what's going on there, because they have been definitely leaky, and that's an area where I think the Jets can kind of get after it a little bit.
Yeah, I totally get it too. Talking about all the injuries he just went through. If any team can relate, I mean, the Jets the last 2 years on the offensive side of the ball just absolutely decimated by injuries. So I get it. It's tough to get anything going when you're missing so many key guys.
Yeah, just wait till you see this injury report. It's crazy. All right, yeah. Well, I guess we can jump right into that then, unless you had something else.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So here's the Bills injury report from today. Run through it quick. You can call out if anything jumps out to you. But Josh Allen, as far as I know, is good to go. No issues. Definitely, we can talk about if you think that was a concussion or not. I don't know. It sure looked like something happened there, and he might have been out for a couple seconds. But
I was shocked he got back into that game against Houston.
For sure.
To be completely honest with you, like I know, supposedly he was cleared on the sideline, but to me, and I'm not a doctor, but it looked like he was out on the field. Yep. Which to me, I don't know how he gets back in at that spot.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think all of us were shocked. It's when it happened. I thought for sure he was done for the day, and then for him to come back as quick as he did, I thought that was surprising. I thought at least he would go back to the locker room and they would do further evaluation or whatever, like they do sometimes, and then the player can come back out. But yeah, and then it definitely wasn't a good look when he's doing the smelling salts before he comes out on the field. But if you do watch him, he does do that a lot. He'll do that randomly in the middle of a game before he comes out for a series, or he'll do it before the game. So that wasn't super surprising for Bills fans to see that, but I'm sure other fans saw the video going around of him doing smelling salts after coming out of the blue tent. We're like, what the hell is going on? But yeah, it's definitely interesting. I'm not surprised to not see that on the injury report, but definitely surprised that he came back into the game. Terrell Bernard is their starting middle linebacker. He's the one we talked about. He's going to be on probably the injury report for a little while going forward because he's going to be getting treatment on that pec injury he had. He played last week full, as far as I know. Didn't have any setbacks or issues, so he should be good to go. The James Cook one is something to watch. That is new. That just popped up. I think it's they don't like to give too much information, but I think it's turf toe. Curtis Samuel as well is listed down there as a toe. He's had that since I want to say maybe the first or second preseason game, and a lot of fans have been really underwhelmed with Curtis Samuel. In spring training and early in the preseason, they were using him all kinds of ways. Handoffs in the backfield, jet motion, and then running normal route trees, even running some deep routes. He missed, I think, the second and third preseason game, and since then he's been on very limited snaps and has basically done nothing. Last game with Khalil Shakir, arguably our wide receiver 1 out, and our main slot receiver, everyone thought Samuel would just jump into that and get more snaps. Samuel had -1 yards. So I think he's still dealing with that turf toe, and it's really limiting him. That's the only explanation I can have. And now to see James Cook dealing with that is a pretty major storyline, because the Bills have really liked to lean into James Cook's under Joe Brady, and then kind of build the offense off of that run game they're getting going. So that's definitely an injury to watch going forward through this week. Darrington Evans is kind of a special teamer, fourth running back. I don't really see anything too crazy at the top. Austin Johnson missed last game. He's the backup nose tackle. He's pretty key for run stopping and spelling Daquan Jones. So if he's out again, that could be pretty big. They had to sign a player off of the Falcons practice squad to the active roster, and he actually played a good amount in the game to provide some more beef on the interior with Austin Johnson out. So that is one to watch. Taron Johnson is the nickel corner that has been out with a broken arm. We'll see if he plays. There was thought that he could have gone last week. He was pretty close, so I think most people are expecting him to be a go this week. We'll see. Daquan Jones has been pretty underwhelming this year. So hopefully that shoulder is pretty mild, but he was a full participant, so I wouldn't worry too much about it. Quentin Morris has had the shoulder since preseason. Ed Oliver's a big one to watch. He missed last week with the hamstring. He's their pass rush specialist, their disruptor, their penetrating three technique. If he misses, that's a major loss. They don't really have someone that can replace that. So I would definitely keep an eye on that. Taylor Rapp's their starting safety, so I'm guessing he's gonna play this week if he's a full participant already. We touched on Curtis Samuel. Khalil Shakir is the other big one to watch. He's arguably their wide receiver one this year. He's one of their only returning pass catchers from last year. Been really good this year. He's kind of Josh's security blanket, especially on critical downs. Josh likes to look for him. You could definitely tell he missed him last week. And so it looks like he might miss back-to-back weeks if he doesn't get in some kind of practice this week. That's it for the Bills, unless you have some kind of question on any of those.
No, makes sense. It's you were right. It's very, very long list of injuries, and looking at a lot of wide receivers on here. So curious to see who's a go and who's not for this one against the Jets on Monday.
Yeah, for sure. So Tyrell Shavers is who they called up last week. They also have KJ Hamler as a speed option on the practice squad as well that they could call up. The other name not on here that is worth mentioning is Matt Milano. So he is out until probably late November, beginning of December. He tore his biceps in training camp, but maybe the second matchup go around he'll be back. So another one of the major losses on defense. His backup Dorian Williams though is tied for the lead in tackles right now for linebackers. So he's been playing really well. He's gotten better every week, which is nice to see. We'll switch over to the Jets. Little smaller.
Yes, a little bit smaller here. I don't know if you want me to go through here and talk about these.
Maybe just like the DMPs or any of the LPs that you think might not play.
Yeah, so it's trending like Morgan Moses is going to be back this week. That's big at right tackle. He's missed the last two games, and rookie Olu Fashanu has filled in. He didn't look very good at right tackle the last 2 weeks, unfortunately. He had a great preseason and looked good when he filled in for Morgan Moses against New England, but really struggled against Denver and Minnesota. So glad to see Morgan Moses coming back. Tyron Smith, the veteran rest, that's not uncommon. He's expected to play. Michael Carter will watch. He apparently got hurt in warmups against the Vikings. Haven't gotten a ton of information on him. He is dealing with an ankle too as well. Leaky Fotu will be back, making his debut with the Jets. He got hurt in the preseason or at the end of the training camp. He was someone who was expected to be a run defender. The Jets have struggled a little bit against the run at times, so it'd be big to see him back. Mosley still feels up in the air. That's another big one. The good news for the Jets, at least, is with Jamie and Sherwood filling in and Quincy Williams taking another step forward, the Jets have kind of gotten by at linebacker, but could use that veteran presence on the back end. Rodgers, hurt the ankle. I fully expect him to go. He was limited in practice, but I would anticipate that he goes, and the extra day with the game being on Monday might actually do him well. So I think a lot of these guys will play. The ones I'm keeping an eye on who might not is Carter and Mosley in this spot.
Who is Carter's backup?
So they've used Isaiah Oliver. He was brought in from the San Francisco 49ers in the offseason, so has familiarity with Saleh, who's no longer here, but still running the same stylistic defense. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe we see a little bit of Brandon Eccles as well. He's done a nice job filling in. He was a starter for the Jets in 2021, and then after they drafted Sauce Gardner and signed DJ Reed, he's went to more backup role. But it feels like anytime he plays, he just finds the way to the ball, either on a fumble recovery or an interception. So I wouldn't be surprised if maybe they try to work in Brandon Eccles as well.
Okay, great. All right, well, let's jump into the trenches a little bit and talk about that. I got a couple of stats from ESPN to kind of compare the two lines, and then we can kind of talk about the specific matchups, maybe weaknesses, something like that. For the Bills defense, pass rush win rate, they've been 14th in the NFL, and then run stop win rate, they've been 5th. Now that's for the D line. So I was a little surprised by them being ranked 5th. Their run defense hasn't been great, but it doesn't necessarily mean that's on the D line playing poorly. A lot of that's been on the back end, backup linebackers taking bad gaps or not being disciplined, and then also missed tackles and the safeties coming up and not filling properly either. So that's something to think about for this game. For the Jets offense, they are 27th in pass block win rate and 27th in run block win rate. So we can start with the Jets offense versus the Bills defense. I did see Tyron Smith's, he's 9th in run block win rate, but I didn't see any Jets on interior or the tackle position for pass block win rate, which isn't too surprising, right?
No, not. I was going to say not too surprising. Although the strange part is, if you watch the Jets this year, through the first 3 games, they were very good in pass pro. They've been bad all year in the run blocking. That's been a major issue for them through 5 weeks. But the first 3 weeks, they were good. They were trending towards top 10. Last 2 weeks have been absolutely abysmal, which has plummeted them, I think, in this spot. I'm wondering if Morgan Moses coming back kind of gets them in gear a little bit. Again, I'm very surprised that they haven't been better in run blocking. Everyone, who follows the Jets, were assuming they'd be a better run blocking team than in pass pro this year. You bring in Morgan Moses, Elijah Vera Tucker is coming back from injury. Joe Tippmann, the center, is more of a run blocker. They signed John Simpson from the Ravens, who's kind of more of a run blocker. So I think the expectation for them was to be a run-first team, and that just hasn't been the case through the first 5 weeks. I don't know what they need to do to fix that. There's no, magic button to just hit it and it clicks. But
I think you bring up a good point, though. Like, as far as the zone versus the gap running, and some of those guys, like John Simpson, even Tyrone Smith, are much better suited for the power running and gap scheme and double teaming and things like that, and not so much getting them out in space, right, and pulling. And so that's a really interesting point. If even the coordinator change just brings about more power versus zone, maybe that'll help the run blocking there.
Yeah, that's the hope, because everyone looked at this offseason and said, okay, we saw what you did with the offensive line and free agency in the draft and via trade. And then they drafted 2 big bruising running backs, and everyone goes, okay, like they're gonna be a power team now. And in training camp, again, it looked that way, and they used a lot more motion in training camp. And then for whatever reason, regular season comes and it stops. There's no motion. It's all outside, zone stuff, and it hasn't worked. So that's why I said earlier with Downing, I kind of just hope that they get back to what they were doing in the preseason and in training camp, because I think that's their best chance at success here.
I hope they don't switch. Some of the big runs the Bills have given up have been in kind of trap blocks and double team blocks and things like that. They've kind of struggled with. They're a penetrating style defense. They want to fly up the field and make tackles for a loss, and that can get them in trouble. And then you could break off big runs. I know Brees has done that to the Bills a couple times last year. So, yeah, I don't really want to see that this time. You got anything else from the offensive line that you want to talk about, or the Bills' defensive line?
No, not really. I was the stat where you said the Bills' defensive line is 5th in run stop rate was a little bit surprising, just because you look at the yards per attempt against and you wouldn't think that, but
For sure.
makes a little bit more sense when you mentioned the linebacker and safety play.
Yeah, definitely, and that's where having Terrell Bernard is back is really key. Even Taylor Rapp too, he did a lot, much better filling. But yeah, I mean your D line can do their assignment right or win their one on ones, but you still got to have someone making the tackles. But yeah, it was surprising. Ed Oliver and Daquan Jones just haven't been making the splash plays this year that they had been previously, even in the run game. So we'll see. I mean, I think the big thing for the Bills is they want to get you in some kind of loss, on first down, and then get you passing, and then that's where they tee off on you is when they get you in a passing situation. I know the Jets are similar in that fact, as far as if they're forcing you to throw, then that's trouble. So the Bills are very similar there. They are okay giving up 4 yard runs, 5 yard runs, 8 yard runs. That's okay. They don't want to give up explosives, but they'll give up chunk play. They're okay with that. You can have a 10 yard run, you can have a 7 yard run, but we're gonna get you for a -4 or a -5, and then that's when we're gonna come after you and heat you up. So that'll be an interesting dynamic here because if Brees can do his normal thing where he breaks one off, that can definitely change this game.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you. I do think, stylistically, the Jets defense plays a very similar way. Is they're okay with giving up the underneath stuff. It's a bend but
Hmm.
don't break almost, and sometimes, like you mentioned, for against the Ravens, like bad scheme matchup, that was just a bad spot for the Bills, and you get got. But more often than not, you can survive giving up the small chunks. It's just
Yep.
they're built, at least I can speak on the Jet side, they're built to cover well and get after the quarterback. And then in the run defense, it is what it is.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, I think they go about it a little bit differently, but yeah, as far as defensively, like, yeah, the idea is keep the top on, right? Don't give up any explosive plays in the run or pass, and then yeah, when we get you in the passing downs long and late, we're gonna get after you with four, and then we're gonna come up and tackle, hopefully short of the line to gain. So agree there. We'll go over the Bills offense versus the Jets defense. So the Jets defense pass rush win rate is 26th, and then run stop win rate is 7th. Again, this is just for the defensive line. And then the Bills offense pass block win rate is 2nd, and run block win rate is 21st. You want to go first about what surprises you about any of that?
Yeah, I'm not really crazy surprised by honestly either side of those. I figure for the Bills, like they've been a passing team for a long time, so for them to kind of have that hunkered down and behind a little bit in the run game isn't really that surprising. Figured the Jets maybe would be a touch higher in win percentage for the defensive line in pass rush. But really, it's only come from one guy. It's been Will McDonald. Nobody else is really getting a whole lot. Quentin Williams is eating just a ton of double and triple teams right now. They are missing another edge guy, and Hassan Reddick would be really nice right about now.
He's too busy playing samurai or whatever he's
Yeah,
doing.
whatever he's doing in Japan, workout
Yeah.
videos at Temple, but
Jeez.
yeah, it's tough. So not crazy surprised by it,
That
but
is one thing I wanted to ask you though is I did see I think it's maybe the last 2 weeks or whatever, but you guys have been blitzing more than I've ever seen you guys blitz. Is that something that has been more of a trend lately, and is that because of trying to generate some other kind of pressure from somewhere?
yeah, I think that's exactly what it is. They didn't really do in the worst games were week 1 against San Francisco and week 4 against Denver were the two games that stood out where they couldn't get a pass rush. This most recent game against Minnesota, kind of the same thing, although Will McDonald ended up having a big play and there was a few coverage sacks mixed in. But when their best game, I would say, was against New England, and they blitzed the most that game. And I think it's a good way to
It's a good
compensate.
old line to do that against too.
Yeah, that does help. That does help. You might not be able to get away with it against the Bills offensive line and Josh Allen, but that might be a way to compensate for the lack of juice opposite of Will McDonald.
Yeah, so I'll say the Bills have struggled with kind of games and stunts inside, especially on the right side of the line with Osiris Torrance. A lot of people thought he would take a big jump in his second year, and in run blocking for sure. Pass blocking this year, he's really struggled on not necessarily straight sets. He's fine one on one. It's when he's got to pick up a guy that's looping from either the inside or from the outside. So that's something where maybe the Jets will look to exploit instead of not necessarily sending extra guys, but maybe stunting on the inside there, because that's definitely gotten the Bills quite a few times with free rushers so far this year.
Okay. Yeah, good to know. Might be a big Quinnen Williams and Leonard Taylor game then.
There you go. Let's see. I guess we can go to the skill position in the back seven matchups. So the Bills for us, it's gonna be tough on offense with the injuries. Shakir being out really affected I think what the Bills wanted to do. Something interesting to watch in this game is Josh Allen. The first 3 weeks was like he was against the Jets game last year, as far as being very patient, taking whatever was there, was fine, taking small profits, dumping it off to the running back, the tight ends who were chipping, and just fine, just living to the next down and just taking whatever the defense gave him. And the offense was super efficient the first 3 weeks. Week 4 and 5, he is ranked second in deep pass rate, so passes that travel more than 20 yards. He's second most frequent, and he's 4 for 20 in those situations. So we don't really have the weapons to be doing that kind of game plan, and I think he's gotten a little greedy and trying to make big plays. They both were in big spots, going head-to-head against Lamar, in prime time, and then going against Diggs and the Texans was another spot. So I think if Josh tries to play hero ball with the weapons we have and with the Jets defense, it's going to be trouble. But if he can play patient like he did the first 3 weeks, I think that is a good recipe for the Bills, because they have decent enough weapons as far as getting the ball to them and letting them run after the catch. They've been getting open. It's not a matter of separation. It's just a matter of whether or not Josh wants to throw him the ball.
Yeah, I agree with kind of how you just laid it out. I think if he does try to take those shots down the field, that plays into the Jets' favor a little bit.
Yeah.
We've seen at times now, the game up in Buffalo last year was a blowout and it wasn't close, but it feels like the last 2 years the Jets have kind of played Buffalo tight. I mean, they won the two games, won the 2 games at home. I think they've done a good job of baiting Josh Allen into mistakes.
Yep.
So that for me, like on the Jets side, like that's what I'm looking for. I'm trying to get into a script where he's trying to play hero ball a little bit and try to make those big plays, because as you mentioned, the receiving core probably isn't there, especially with the injuries. I think that's how the Jets, if they were to win this game, I think that's how they would have to do it, is kind of, similar to the home games they played against them in 22 and 23.
That cover 2 hole shot, man. God damn. He loves to throw that thing, and then you got the corner sinking. Oh, drives me crazy. He always tries to fit that in there.
He does, and the Jets have got him, although Whitehead's not here anymore, so there's not going to be a 3 interception game, but maybe
we hope not. He hasn't thrown one yet this year. He has had 2 fumbles, but he could have for sure thrown probably at least 2 last week that were dropped. So I think if he plays that style, I think the Jets, should win this game. So I think that's a big one for me as far as the skill positions. As far as like specific matchups, it's really been weird what Joe Brady stylistically wants to create matchups. He doesn't care about who is on our team. It's about where's the weakness on the defense and how can I line up whatever guy on my team to exploit that weakness. The first 3 weeks we saw a lot of motion and trying to get after and really force the defense into a certain look that we wanted them to be in and then attack it. The last 2 weeks we haven't seen that as much. Less motion and less matchup specific. So I'm kind of looking for them to get back to that. Also, the other thing to watch is first down run rate. Like, they have run the ball first down so much this season. Certain games it's over 70%. So that's something to watch. And also under shotgun. There's, I think, a 2-game stretch where if they were under shotgun, they ran the ball 98% of the time. So he does do tendencies like that, and then the next game he'll completely break them and not run under shotgun one time. He'll do like play action 3 times or something like that. So I'm interested to see what kind of wrinkles he has if he gets back to motion. The Bills are seeing the most man coverage so far this season. I think it's almost 40%. And the last 2 weeks, especially, we saw a lot of man coverage. The Jaguars played the most man coverage against us at like 75 or 80%, and absolutely got torched. Josh eats up man coverage. But the Jaguars don't have good corners. Like the Ravens played very good coverage, and the Texans did enough that Josh had his worst game last week. So he's coming off his worst game and possibly a concussion. So yeah, there's a lot of dynamics here that are interesting as far as from a Bills offensive perspective that kind of favors what the Jets want to do and how their game script needs to go for this game.
Yeah, and the Jets like to work in a lot of zone coverage, so that's a good sign. And you mentioned it towards the top in cornerback play. Sauce Gardner gets a ton of praise, deservedly so, although slow start for him this year. But DJ Reed has been so good this year.
He's unbelievable.
Yeah, I think he played really, especially the last 2 weeks, which is tough in these losses. But he did a really good job, I thought, in a tough spot against Minnesota and against the Denver Broncos.
He was good last year too.
Yeah, I love this. And when Michael Carter's healthy, for my money, I think this is the best corner trio in the league.
Michael Carter is really good.
I
think if you ask Bills fans, they would probably agree with that. This is the best three that they go against. I think a lot of them think Sauce grabs a little too much. But yeah, they're all three fantastic, and they all can take the ball away too if you're not careful. So, yeah, I think the C.J. Mosley thing's interesting for me because the Bills have said they wanted to go after linebackers a lot and running backs. They have 3 running backs that can come out of the backfield and catch the ball, and they've thrown the ball to all 3 of them. And then they have 2 tight ends that are very good as far as Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox. And so that's something that Bills fans have wanted to see some more of, is some more 12 personnel, some 22, some heavy packages, and trying to get those playmakers on linebackers or on safeties. So with Mosley out, how do you see the safeties and linebackers so far this year, their ability to cover like running backs and tight ends?
So I think they've actually been better without Mosley in the passing attack. Mosley at this point in his career is like a downhill, run stopping linebacker. He keeps up because of his football IQ. Like that's what's keeping him around. Jamian Sherwood's a converted safety. Yeah. So he's very quick sideline.
Is he from Wake Forest? Is that where he came out of? Or is it Auburn?
No, Auburn, I'm pretty sure. Okay. Yeah. He's been really good sideline to sideline. Quincy Williams, same thing. He plays with a ton of speed. I think he really popped the first game last year against Buffalo. He had a fantastic game. So I think on paper they should be able to hang with the tight ends and running backs out of the backfield in coverage. I'd actually be a little bit more concerned if Mosley was out there because he got picked on in coverage. I think when he comes back from this injury, I personally would like to kind of just see him as an early down linebacker. And then in obvious passing situations, Jamian Sherwood comes in and replaces him for that reason, because I think, he would be able to get picked on in the passing attack.
Okay. Yeah, we'll switch to the other side of the ball. I think for something to watch for Jets fans is who starts in the slot. If it's Cam Lewis, attack him all day. The Texans did it last week. He's really struggled in pass coverage, and he can be got. Him against Garrett Wilson's an absolute nightmare for us. The Bills won't try to switch. They won't follow. They kind of they trust their guys, and right or wrong. And Cam Lewis has been the guy they've been picking on lately. It was Balin Spector, the backup middle linebacker. Now with Dorian Williams in there, it's been pretty heavily on Cam Lewis. So if Taron Johnson can go, that's great for us. If not, then watch out for the slot position and Cam Lewis. You have anything for the Bills fans to key in on what the Jets might want to do besides the run game stuff that we covered?
On the offensive side or on the defensive side?
Yeah, on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I think you just mentioned it with the slot corner. I think they're going to try to get Garrett in the slot a lot this week. With Alan Lazard and Mike Williams on the outside, I think they'd be willing to run a little bit of 11 personnel and put Garrett in the slot. We talked a lot about the run game, but on the passing attack, they've been very, very focal on getting Garrett Wilson the ball. and he
Yeah, how
had his
many
first
targets did he have last week?
22, which
Oh
is
my
just absurd.
god,
Yeah,
that's
which is
I don't
absurd.
even know if a Bills receiver has that for the year so far. Like
No,
that is
yeah,
insane.
it is insane. It's way too high. I think they need to be more balanced than that. The next closest was Lazard with 10. I'd rather those 10 to go to Devontae Adams, or split it up a
Right,
little bit, maybe
right, right.
15 and 15 to Adams and Wilson here. But
Well, man, talk about those drops by Lazard too. Like,
oh god, for the second year in a row leads the league in drops and drop rate. So I'm at my wit's end with him. There was a ball in the end zone that it was a tough catch,
mhm.
but hit him in the hands. He
I
should have
needed
caught
that
it.
anytime touchdown, man. That was
Yeah,
brutal.
it was tough. I think they win the game if he catches that ball. Completely changes things. Um,
It
but
pays to have Aaron Rodgers as your friend, right?
apparently so. That's what's keeping Lazard and Hackett around.
Yeah, for sure. So what about Conklin? Do you think he'll get more involved? Will he get some of those targets, or was that kind of more of like a one game mirage? What was that, 2 games ago where he was really heavily featured?
Yeah, it was a couple games ago. I'm a big Tyler Conklin fan. I think they need to utilize him more, actually. So I would advocate for getting him the ball. He's very good up the seam, which is something that Rodgers usually tends to like to do. He likes to
We've
throw to
been
the
we've
tight
been
ends.
weak there too, just so you guys know.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he's going to have like the 95 receiving yards like he had a few weeks ago, but it would be nice to see them utilize him more, because for me, I'm much more comfortable, focusing in on him than feeding Lazard 10 plus targets a game.
Yeah, definitely. All right, well, let's get into the blueprint for a Jets victory. What are your couple keys that would ensure a Jets win?
So for me, I mentioned it on defense, but I think they need to create turnovers against Josh Allen, bait him into making a mistake. They've done it pretty well in his career. Allen has a
Mhm.
decent amount of turnovers against the Jets. He has a great record. He's 7-4, but the turnover numbers are high. I think
Yep.
if they do that and get a couple extra possessions, and this is the week they need to get Brees Hall going. It's been really tough for him the first 5 games of the year. It's 5.2 yards per attempt that the Bills are allowing in the rushing attack. I
Yep.
think they need to switch it up, run more power, like we discussed earlier, mix in both Brees Hall and Braylon Allen, and just don't ask Rodgers to do too much. Have him, around 30 passing attempts is what I'd like to see. And if they do that, I think they do have a chance. I think they're going to be feeding off the coaching change, home crowd, prime time, a little bit more juice in that building after some of the decisions. I think this is going to be a really tight game, and I do think the Jets have a chance at home.
Awesome. For the Bills, I think it's kind of the opposite of what you said, as far as Josh has got to just take the profit. Like, keep it simple, take the easy plays, find the open man, and just move the ball down the field like you did the first 3 weeks. I think if he can, stay away from those shot plays and those big mistakes, and especially field position, giving the Jets short fields, I think that's going to go a long way. And then yeah, for the Bills, it's stop the run. And for both sides of the ball for the Bills, it's not shoot yourself in the foot, as far as penalties in bad spots, miscommunication at bad times, and just really like kind of giving away possessions by making a mistake at a bad time. So cleaning some of that up, I think, is going to be big. I do agree. I think in most situations this has got to be a close game. Um, and so, yeah, I think it could come down to the turnover margin and who makes the most mistakes. I know the Jets have had a lot of penalty issues, and so have the Bills in some of the games. So that could be a turning point too. You don't want to give either of these offenses extra chances and free yards. So you definitely want to make them grind and earn it. Do you have any player props or anything you're interested in betting wise for the game?
Yeah, for me, I'm gonna look at the line for Garrett Wilson receiving yards, just because of how many times he's been fed the ball. And there hasn't been a Devontae Adams trade yet, and I do think that they're gonna get Garrett in the slot. And I think yardage wise, he's gonna be close to 100 this week. I believe the line somewhere around 67 and a half. If I saw 61 and a half, actually. So I'm looking to the over on that one.
Yeah, I think that makes perfect sense. Especially, I mean, even if Taryn plays, it's his first game back. Like, that's a tough matchup. Garrett, is you take that matchup, Garrett versus anyone, essentially, right? And so, yeah, I think that one makes a lot of sense. Um, I'm interested to see what they have some of these over unders are on some of the receiving I know for the Jets, it's been pretty easy. Like it's been like Mike Williams 2.5, Conklin 2.5, Lazard 2.5. So I've kind of been hitting those the last couple weeks just because Aaron's been doing a good job, at least giving everybody a couple targets. So I'd be interested to see this game with how last game went, where it was so heavy Garrett Wilson. Like, how high can they make his over under on receptions? Like, I think last week it was only at like 5.5 or something. So I'm interested to see how that adjusts. For me, I think I would take either of the Bills running backs as an anytime touchdown. They've both already scored this year, and I think with James Cook banged up, even if he does play, they might limit some of those. They've also looked to bring in Ty Johnson, who's he goes back and forth between second and third string running back as the red zone running back and kind of in some of those looks. Um, so yeah, I definitely could see one of the backup running backs scoring, and their odds have been anywhere from 550 to 800. So I like the odds for those. I will not take Josh Allen over passing yards. If anything, I would take his under, and I would take. This might be the game where he gets his first interception. So I wonder what the odds are from that. Because if those have kind of adjusted to how he's played this year, through 5 games, no interceptions, that line could be pretty good if it's any close to even money or slightly negative.
Yeah,
All right,
agree.
go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I agree with that. I'm curious to see what the line is on the interception. I know he hasn't had one yet, but again, Jets have done a good job creating turnovers against him.
For sure. It just takes one, bobbled ball or batted ball too. So, all right. Well, what about score prediction? What do you got? Put you on the spot.
Yeah, so I am going to take the Jets in this game. I do think they're desperate. I do think they get the interim coach bump that we see a lot of times. For most teams, it's later in the season. But I think tight, low-scoring game. I like the under 2. I'm going to go 20-17 Jets here.
I think I've saw a stat where I'm not sure Josh has lost 3 games in a row. I know coming off of a loss, he was 14-4 going into last week. So that has me trying to lean one way. I do worry about concussion effects there or not. He did get banged up pretty hard in the Ravens game, and some argue that he had concussion that game, and that's why he had such a poor game against the Texans, and then he got a concussion again. This team goes as Josh goes. When he plays smart, when he takes care of the ball, the offense is extremely efficient, and they will put up plenty of points to win. But I do worry if he's not sharp, if he's not himself, and if he gets greedy. We've seen what that looks like, right? That was week 1 last year. So I got the Jets in this one. It's close. I got it 23-20. So I did pick before the season for us to lose these 3 games, 3 road games. So and going 3-3. So I'll stick to that, even though the season's kind of gone weird for most teams in the NFL. But yeah, I'll stick to that, and I'll see if the Jets can pull it out here. I think they're the team that needs it more. For sure. I don't think this means too much for the Bills, obviously, for the division and whatnot, but there's plenty of season left. But yeah, if the Jets drop this, you go to 2-4, you just did the quarterback change. Like you said, you go to Pittsburgh next. That's a tough game. You cannot go to 2-5, and then things really spiral from there. So yeah, I really appreciate it, Matt, for joining me. Do you want to again tell people where they can find you and maybe what you got coming up? So again, this is going to air Saturday night. So what do you got coming up Sunday, Monday, anything like that, whatever you want to promo, this is your time.
Yeah, absolutely. You can follow at Matt O'Leary NY. I'll be reacting to this game on Sunday. So if you want to come in and gloat after a win, you can do that. I'll have my post game reaction up. Or if the Jets win, maybe don't come by. But other than that, yeah, reaction to the game, fallout, the next few days, we get player quotes on Monday and coaches quotes, usually Monday, Tuesday, and then, ramping it right up for the next week against Pittsburgh.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you joining me. Guys, definitely check out his work and his podcast and make sure you like and subscribe. Again, really appreciate it, Matt.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jake.
Yep. All right. Well, thanks again to Matt. This is awesome having him on. He provided some great information. So now I'll give a little bit of updates. So again, that was done on Thursday afternoon. So here's the Saturday injury report for the Bills. I guess the major thing is Ed Oliver's ruled out again, so second game in a row he'll miss. Um, Dwayne Carter sounds like he'll get more snaps again. Um, I'm I'm not too worried about that. He looked pretty good against Houston. So I'm excited to see him in there. Obviously, you miss the upside of Ed. When Ed's on, he's one of the best three techniques in football. But Carter should fill in nicely. They called up Branson Dean last time. If Austin Johnson goes, I'm not sure they need to call him up, but we'll see. And then Zion Logue played and played pretty well from what I saw. Um, that's it right now for ruled out. That's a good sign. Questionable is James Cook, Austin Johnson, Taron Johnson, and Khalil Shakir. Um, we'll see on Taron. I think he's going to go. He had the red non-contact off. He had been talking and leaning towards last week wanting to go, and I think they held him back one extra week. So I think Taron's probably most likely to go out of this list. Khalil looked better today. He was limited, so that's good to see. But with the ankle, it just really depends if they want to risk the re-injury with that and how well he can plant. Could come down to maybe like a pregame warm-up thing, and they see how it's feeling. The Monday night, though, helps having the extra rest. Austin Johnson being limited again. I'm not sure. He's got to be close, though, because they probably would have just ruled him out. But in a game like this where you could really use some interior help, and then with Ed already being out, they might want to just give him the extra time just in case he can go. So again, it's good that only Ed's ruled out, but I do worry about like James Cook and Khalil Shakir. Like even if they do go, are they back to 100%? Cook, I'm definitely worried about going forward. A toe for a running back's not great. So I worry about how that's going to affect him. Planting, cutting, and how effective he'll be. Could be used more of a decoy or just less reps. And then you would see, Ty Johnson and Ray Davis getting more reps there for Cook if he's not at 100%. And then for the Jets side, I just saw they tweeted out update. It looks like Michael Carter has been ruled out. So that's a development. He's got the back injury. Looks like Oliver will start. And then C.J. Mosley with the toe and Tyler Conklin with the hip are both questionable. But sounds like it's leaning towards them playing, especially Conklin. So we'll see. I'm interested to see, like, is this, are both teams going to play the same style here? I mean, is it going to be just a ground and pound game and then you pick and choose your spots to throw? If anything, I think the Jets might want to throw more. But, with the change with Downing and, an offensive coordinator and, they've been so pass heavy. I think they were over 60% pass. Do they do a course correct and go, much closer to 50%? I'm definitely interested in seeing that. The Bills have to sell out and stop the run. You cannot let Brees break off some runs and Allen break off some runs in this game. And for the Bills with Cook, dealing with the toe, can Ty Johnson or Ray Davis step up and provide something? Both have shown, some burst and some ability to do it in spot, but if they're getting, 8, 10 plus carries, can they make something happen? Because the Bills could definitely use that and keep them on schedule. All right, well, next up, we have the new Sunday morning edition of No One to Blame at 10 a.m. Eastern Time tomorrow. Join Jesse and myself as we go over each game for the Week 6 slate. We'll give you our picks and player props. We'll also comment live on the London game, so between Chicago and Jacksonville. And then we'll do FanDuel daily fantasy lineups. We'll go over that. We're trying to get more into some FanDuel stuff, maybe run some leagues and do some stuff like that with some of you guys. So definitely check out that segment, and then we'll give you like injury updates and stuff like that as we get them. If we find out guys aren't playing, and we'll tell you how to adjust that, and maybe some different props and things to look into if certain guys aren't active. or are active. And then immediately following the Bills Jets game, you can join us in the Dude Champions channel for the post game show. We'll give you instant reaction and breakdown. And then, you can always feel free to comment. Sometimes we do the call in live show too, so you can call in if you're feeling brave enough, and we'll answer all your questions there on the spot. I want to thank our show sponsors, Happy Holiday and Mackenzie Tree Farms, for supporting me. Please remember this holiday season to buy a real tree grown here in the USA, so that way we can support them too. Thank you for tuning in. Please join me next Saturday night at 9 p.m. Eastern for the next episode of the Buffalo Blueprint. I'll be breaking down the Week 7 matchup back home at 1 p.m. against the Tennessee Titans. And I'll try to have a Tennessee Titans guest on for next week. Please subscribe on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram at Dude Champions, and then on my accounts at Jake FB Data. And I will see you all next week. Go Bills. Hopefully I'm wrong in my prediction. I would love to be wrong. Feel free to call me out. That would be great. But we'll see you on Monday night. So go Bills. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Really appreciate it.